This is the Crowd Crux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. What up, crowdfunders? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I have missed you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for diving into some of my other podcast episodes. If you've done that, I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of the show thus far. Some of the guests that I've had on, and today is no exception. I had on a guest that's raised over $80,000 on Kickstarter, and they share with you exactly how they did that. We get into the specifics of their launch process, how they got backers, how they launched without having a really big email list or even a lot of presence in this actual niche and industry, which I think a lot of people out there are going to kind of resonate with because many people don't have that massive email list. Many people don't have necessarily thousands and thousands of social media followers. So today you're going to hear why you don't necessarily need to have an email list going in. While it's something I totally 100% recommend, this campaign was able to beat the odds. They did it and they share with you how they actually were able to. The other thing I want to announce really quickly before we get into the podcast is that, first of all, thank you everyone who supports my work when it comes to Kickstarter and crowdfunding and putting out this education. A new area that I'm working to get into is sharing my expertise on blogging, because I've been blogging for the last 5 years. I've had so many people come to me and be like, hey Sal, like, how do you set up a blog? How do you actually get out there? You earn money from it. You do all of these different things. You get traffic. Like, how are you able to do that? If you ever had an interest in your mind to become an influencer or an expert or a thought leader online, I want to share with you exactly how to do that. So I put together this book called Blogging for Beginners, which is now available on Amazon. And I'm really excited to announce that I have finally completed the Audible version for Blogging for Beginners. So the complete title is Blogging for Beginners, Work from Home, Travel the World, and Provide for Your Family. Though I recognize it's difficult to read a book. It's hard to, keep up with reading a book on Kindle, let alone a paperback version. Not everyone is into reading in the same way that I am. So I wanted to put together an Audible book, because that way you can listen to the book as you're doing things like you're commuting to work, or you're walking down the street, or you're walking your dog, you're going on the subway, etc. Blogging for Beginners is literally the perfect step for getting started with launching, and growing a completely new blog. I'll introduce you to all of the concepts. I'll share with you behind the scenes how I'm able to command so much traffic and attention online. And you can use the same blueprint that I have in order to start, grow, and monetize your own blog. So if you want to check that out, I'll include a link in the show notes of today's episode, but that's Blogging for Beginners. You can also access that at crowdcrux.com/blogging. That is crowdcrux.com/blogging. If you want, you can actually get this for free with Audible. If you sign up for a 30-day trial with Audible, which basically you can then listen to other audiobooks, etc., you'll get this book for free. So if you don't want to pay for it in that way, you can get it for free by just signing up for a free trial for Audible. So I think that's a pretty sweet deal. So I hope you enjoy it. Hope you get a lot of value out of it. But without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. Nishant, welcome to the podcast. Looking forward to talking with you about your product. You've raised over $80,000 on Kickstarter. A great success. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Salvador. Happy to be here.
Do you think you can tell the audience just a little bit about your product, who it's for, what they can use it for, just to give them an idea of the project?
So the product is a fan, which also has an evaporative cooler inside of it. And because it uses water to do cooling, it also has a humidifier. So it's actually sort of an all-season fan.
Okay, and you use this, I guess, in your home to keep your air correct and to keep the entire place cool, like that kind of use case?
Yeah, so the use case is basically for small rooms or parts of rooms. So the area that it would cool would be about 130, 140 square feet. So this is in the category of what's called a spot cooler. So it cools a certain area, not a full or a big room.
Okay.
So it's more like a personal comfort or cooling device.
Cool. So when actually did you start to come up with this idea for the product? Because this is kind of like a unique project. I haven't seen too many products like this on Kickstarter. Where did that idea start? Like, when did you decide we need to solve this problem or come up with this kind of a product?
This idea started about 2 years ago, or I would say 2.5 years ago. So we are actually a team of designers and product developers and engineers who build products for other companies. And we build products for other companies in this domain of fans and coolers and humidifiers and dehumidifiers and air conditioners. So we're already a team of product designers. And one of the things that we wanted was to have our own product and our own brand.
Mm-hmm.
To actually go out in the market and do the whole thing ourselves. So with that in mind, we looked at some of the sketches or the drawings and ideas that we had that we thought were innovative enough, but yet something which we could go to market quickly. So it shouldn't be a product that's nothing that's never been done before or something completely groundbreaking. Something definitely innovative, but not a complete new invention.
Okay, so you were familiar then, at least with the design process. And I mean, you've seen products like this before. I guess you also had the desire to solve the problem as well.
Yes, so we had seen, so if you look at this typical fan, air cooler, air conditioner industry, one, it's very boring, poorly designed products. Two, the technology has moved ahead, but for cost reasons or supply chain reasons, these products haven't really evolved. So if you have, for example, if you look at mobile phones and laptop computers and tablets, they're jumping generations in every couple of years. But this category has been sort of stuck in a time warp, and that's where we felt that, and so a lot of the innovation that we've done is internal. It's in the way the power is supplied. It's in the way the internals are engineered.
Totally.
And it's in the way the product is designed because, it's not a conventional looking, fan.
So what actually happened then? You had this idea, you've been working on it for 2 years. You guys obviously have some experience with designing and creating projects, but launching a Kickstarter project, I think, is an entirely different beast. So you end up announcing this, and what happens there? It looks like you were funded within the first maybe like 2 weeks there.
Yeah, so not only that, we are actually a company that's never done direct to consumer or consumer marketing. We didn't have a brand, we didn't have a website, we didn't have a mailing list. And within 3 months of, we actually decided to do this towards the end of 2016. And we were sort of still discussing this towards early 2017. And we make products for summer, right?
Yeah.
So if we wanted a product that does a Kickstarter campaign in the summer, we also wanted to deliver the product fairly quickly so that people could still enjoy it within the summer. So we started with 2 time constraints. One, we wanted to have a Kickstarter campaign out there within 3 months when none of us knew anything about direct-to-consumer marketing or e-commerce. Or crowdfunding is like definitely no idea what that was about. And, but we knew the product and we knew that we could get the product out there and we could get it because we know supply chain. So we could get it manufactured and in hands of backers within a couple of months of the campaign. So that was what we went with.
Yeah. Like you said, I think launching a new project, like you have to get all that stuff together. You have to get together the email list. You have to get together your website. You have to get together the launch plan. So it can be a lot to do, especially if it's your first time doing direct to consumer. So walk me through that. What was that like, though, actually unveiling this to the entire internet where anyone can check out your project? And now you're starting to get some backers and people check it out. Like, did you have a launch plan here? What was the game plan like going into the project?
So we thought that Kickstarter would be a great way to launch our own brand. And we worked backward from a deadline of saying, latest by May, we want to have a campaign live. And then we didn't get it live by May. We actually went into June. And latest by May, we want to have a campaign live, and so that it can run over the summer. It can run over the early part of summer. So we work backward from that deadline to say, okay, we're sitting in February. First, we need to think of a name. We have this product sort of designed internally, but we need to think about the positioning. We need to think about, what it's going to look like. Well, we know what it works like. We need to know what it looks like. What are the colors going to be? What are the materials going to be? So we actually had to work, and we literally just had 3 months. And then we need to think about, once we have a brand name, what's the website going to look like? And then, what is this product, right? So we know it's a fan, right? But that's what we know as makers. But a consumer or a Kickstarter backer is also looking to solve a problem. So what is the problem they're trying to solve? And how do we marry what this product can do with what problem they're trying to solve? Yeah. So that process we had to do within sort of 3 months. And this is when I talk to other Kickstarter backers, I'm like, your best friend is Amazon. Because look at the closest products that you have and read their product reviews and read the midpoint product reviews, the 2-star, 3-star reviews, which they're sort of unsatisfied with the products, but but they're trying to give an honest opinion, and there's some meat in there. So they're talking about real pain points. So what we did was we looked at the closest category of products, which was actually evaporative coolers, which are also known as swamp coolers, and fans. And we read through all the pain points, and, it was like, okay, big pain point, noisy. Our product, because it uses completely different kind of engineering, is not noisy. Big pain point, swamp coolers have water, they get smelly. Our product uses completely different kind of cooling media, so it's not smelly. So we actually then position, we have a motor that's energy efficient compared to air conditioning motors by like a fraction. We consume only a fraction of the energy that an air conditioner uses. Even compared to other fans, we're like much more energy efficient. So we looked at the technology breakthroughs we had, but then we tried to marry those with pain points that we came across from Amazon. And that was sort of a crash course in consumer marketing.
Wow, that's
in terms
smart.
Of product marketing.
That's really smart, yeah.
So that was the product marketing piece. And then we had the whole digital marketing piece to figure out, which was another challenge.
That's such a good idea, too, because it allows you to also see what you're going to emphasize in your campaign. Because if you see a bunch of people who are leaving negative reviews because the existing products aren't solving some kind of a problem yours does, to emphasize that way more in the actual project page. So that's really smart. Did you have a social media following or an email list when you launched this, or were you just kind of launching this cold?
So we launched from a zero base, but while we were doing this process in parallel, we were researching, how to do crowdfunding. That's where I think, came across your blog and, found your book on Audible and read your book on Audible.
Thank you so much for that too.
Yeah, very useful resources. And so we found and as engineers and project managers, what worked for us, I don't know where we found this, but we found a Trello board, a public Trello board of a Kickstarter campaign. And we were like, okay, this works for us because, we're engineers. We follow lean management principles. We know how Trello or Kanban boards work. We can follow this, right? We can follow this process. So we literally followed a Kickstarter. I have the link somewhere, but we followed this Kickstarter Trello board project plan that was laid out for us. And we literally just broke it down. Okay, so we now and then we tried to build an email list. We didn't have much time. We tried to build an email list with Facebook ads, but it was so expensive that we said, let's just send these Facebook ads to the Kickstarter page when we're ready, because building this mailing list doesn't seem to be working out. I think the dollar cost was high single digits per email. And like, okay, this is not making any sense. So we actually didn't do that. We didn't have, because we were in B2C, we didn't have any PR outlets or any sort of media contacts. We reached out to a lot of people, but the only people who said yes to us were the ones who had sponsored post
opportunity.
programs.
Yeah.
So exactly. So, for a couple of $100, or this one wants $199, that guy wants $499, that guy wants $699.
Yeah.
So we sort of did do those paid posts, but we sort of tried to balance between the reach versus the dollars they were asking for. So we said, okay, let's put a couple of grand aside for this. And, let's make sure we get, and actually those really helped. Those did help because we said, okay, we're paying them. We need to make sure that this launches within a couple of hours of our campaign launching.
So you basically, you went in without having a lot of these assets that I think more traditional campaigns have. So how did you actually then get backers within that first week? Like, were people just discovering you on the platform? Were people discovering you, because of some of the marketing you've done, or how are they finding you?
But one of the things that surprised us was that we actually, and this is, and your blog says this, and a lot of other blogs says, don't rely on Kickstarter audience, right? Build your own audience, bring your own traffic, bring them from outside the ecosystem. Just launching something on Kickstarter doesn't mean it'll work. But I think 60 to 70% of our backers came from within that Kickstarter ecosystem. So if I look at our Google Analytics, they're coming from within Kickstarter. We also brought on board, actually a couple of days after launching the campaign, we brought on board an agency that already had Facebook audiences of Kickstarter backers.
Eventsies partners, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
They could then target our ads. So I think a lot of the traffic came through Facebook ads. And we actually found Facebook ads were giving us a much better ROI, driving traffic directly to the Kickstarter page than trying to capture their email and then trying to leverage that mailing list later.
Okay, so you're basically doing direct Facebook ads, having people link to your campaign. And then it seemed like, okay, let me just preface this by saying the reason why I tell people not to rely on the actual website Kickstarter is because I have seen so many projects that just think that is the case. And yours, obviously, you have a good product and you have it very well put together. So like you were able to get backers from the marketplace, but so many people in the actual audience, they think they can just throw up a project and get funding. So I always recommend doing things like building that email list or building up your social media following, just because I've seen so many campaigns fail from not having done that. But I mean, that's great that your example is basically counter to that.
I think the exception proves the rule. So I think it's really, I still really is important. We're working on a second generation product, which we want to go back to Kickstarter for. And thank God we have a mailing list this time around. But I think one thing that helped us was we said that we would deliver this within 3 months. And we delivered it within 3 months, right? So we're one of the campaigns. So I'm hoping that when the next time we go to Kickstarter, we have the reputation of actually, delivering on our promises on time. And maybe it was the fact that we had a 3-month window. People seemed to think that, oh, this is very near and the summer's coming and this is, maybe that helped, maybe we were just some sort of traditional non-Kickstarter type marketing.
So can I ask you more of like a self-serving question here? When you were going through my content, or actually any content, honestly, in the education sphere, whether, my Audible book or just going out there and learning about this, what do you think was the most powerful or the most important bit of advice that you got for your project that ended up doing, well?
I think it was definitely that the first 24 hours are the most important. And then, day 1 is definitely more important than day 2. Day 2 is more important than day 3. Week 1 is more important than week 2. So try and get everything into the first 2 to 3 days. And if you can't get get all your PR hits, marketing campaigns, whoever's writing about you, your email blasts within that period. And if you can't get within that period, still try to keep everything within the first week. I think that was the single most important thing that we got, and we built up to that.
I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. You hit your goal within about the first 2 weeks, your goal for $40,000, and then you doubled that over the next span of days to end up raising about $80,000. So many of the projects that I speak with, they'll end up having difficulty in the middle of their project because the momentum starts to slow down. You don't have that initial surge of backers and interest, et cetera. Did you do anything to maintain that interest as you were going through this project or this campaign?
So we put together a list of influencers that we wanted to reach out to. But initially, because we were such an unknown entity, we got absolutely no traction, like I said, except for the paid ones. But once the campaign was live, we kept reaching out to those guys. So we actually got some influencers publishing posts about us in week 2, week 3. I kept going. We didn't give up on that process of trying to get influencers every day of the campaign, I was reaching out, I was trying to reach out to people. So I think we kept getting those hits towards the end, even in the last week of the campaign.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped. And we kept seeing that the Facebook ads were delivering a decent ROI. So we kept stepping up on those too. We kept tweaking. One thing that I learned about Facebook ads is that you can have completely different conversion rates if you just change the copy or if you just change the image. Everything else stays the same, right? Just change the background image or just change 2 or 3 sentences of the header copy, and it changes, the outcome. So
Totally.
you have to keep. Yeah, so a lot of times I think people would do 2 or 3 ads and they just keep running the same ads through. I think we kept changing the ads. We kept reaching out to people. And here's the other thing, right? It was getting warm already. It's, we're in mid-June, we're hitting July now. It's getting warmer by the day. So I think, and we're a summer product. So I think that helped.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's amazing, honestly, how you can literally just tweak the title of something. You can tweak the way that you frame something. It can have just such a profound impact on the number of people that check out your project or the number of people that are buying it and just how you generate interest. It's crazy, but it makes a lot of sense. It sort of changes the way that people are perceiving you and also perceiving this product. So I think that definitely, that always astounds me, but it is really interesting in the marketing sphere.
And if you're losing momentum, it's really important to keep trying. Instead of increasing budgets, change copy, change image. Yeah.
Definitely. So let me ask you here, as an entrepreneur, as someone who had this idea, you guys have designed it, you have a team behind it. What's been the most rewarding part of running this project, or the part that you look back on and just kind of smile from having done this campaign?
So, one of the things was I did this campaign entirely out of Hong Kong, right? I didn't go to the US once. We were in Hong Kong time zone. So it's funny that throughout that month, I was working US hours. So I would literally start at 9 p.m. my time and work until 4 or 5 a.m. So if I look back at that month in which we were doing Kickstarter, it's almost like a surreal period of my life when I was, being nocturnal. So that's an interesting bit. But the other really rewarding bit, especially for a company like ours that comes from sort of a B2B background, is that once we had these backers, and then these backers are writing messages to us, or these backers are writing comments, and then I'm responding to these comments, and you're building a dialogue and you're building a relationship. That's something we've never done before at a B2C level. So that was super exciting.
That feels really cool too, I imagine. Yeah. Like being able to just see that other people around the world have bought your product or are interested, and these are strangers, people you've never met before.
Exactly. And every time on the Kickstarter app, the notification would go up that, here's another backer. That feels really good, especially if you've not done B2C before.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you have over 200 comments on your project, like a lot of people loving the product, getting really interested in it. So it's very easy to see how this is going to translate into, as you mentioned in the beginning, growing your brand and launching even more projects in the future. It's just like, it's so much more, I think, validation. And if you're going into a totally new category, having never done consumer before, I think that's incredible.
So, one of the very interesting things was that after the campaign ended, and then I think a couple of months later when we managed to get enough stock in the US, we launched our product on Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. And we're like, okay, what do we need for Amazon? You need reviews. So I sent one email to our or one Kickstarter message. Was it a Kickstarter message or an email? I don't remember, but one message asking these people, hey, listen, we really want to give this product sort of some success. We wanted to see some success on Amazon. Would you guys mind writing a review? And within 24 hours, we had 37 reviews. So that was, that audience that really helps. So the other thing I've learned by doing this is a lot of people, when they think of Kickstarter, they think of, invention, like something totally new, a new art project or a new music project or a movie, right? And my point is, it doesn't have to be that groundbreaking. A regular consumer product like ours, it's innovative, it's not groundbreaking, but it's something you're passionate about, right? So don't think Kickstarter is only for inventors. Kickstarter is for a project that you're passionate about, right? You're passionate enough to want to make a difference, to solve a problem, even if it's a product that 100 other people are making and selling on retail stores, doesn't matter. Like, you do your project and you go to Kickstarter and you go to the audience. If it's a well-presented project, it will be well received.
Mhm. I mean, honestly, I think that with your project, we're learning a ton right now. Just listening to you, I mean, I could totally listen to you all day when it comes to your story and the tips and advice that you're giving. I want to ask you one or two more questions here, but before we do, just want to mention to everyone, if you want to check out this project, where should people go? And also for the future projects you're going to be launching and such, where can they go to check more info about you?
So we have our brand is Quillo, and our website is quillohome.com. So if you can go to quillohome.com, that's where you'll find our product. We've actually launched another portable air conditioning product after that, which is not on Kickstarter, which is because it's a more sort of standard commercial product. So we have two products on our website right now, and that's where we'll talk about our next product too. So quillohome.com.
And how do you spell that?
QUILOHOME.com.
Okay, awesome.
Quillo Home, yeah.
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount. Okay, so one of the questions that I had for you was, when it comes to your reward tiers, I actually haven't spoken, I think, too much about actually strategy when it comes to your reward tiers, aside from doing like early birds, etc. What did you learn on that front? Because I think the way you've structured your rewards, they're very simple, and you also had certain ones, sell out and such. Did you have any thoughts on the reward tiers that you put together for the project?
So a couple of things, right? So one thing was because a lot of times people think, okay, I'm going to raise this money and then I'm going to be able to manufacture multiple variations of my product, right? And therefore, when I do my reward tiers, I'll do multiple reward tiers for multiple variations, or even offer things like multiple colors, And we actually kept it very simple. We offered only one variation of our product, and it was just one color, right? So then all the reward tiers we built were around 1 unit or a pack of 2 units and maybe a combo of 3 units, right? So that was in terms of how we built the reward tiers. And in terms of how we did the pricing, we wanted to sort of be at a 159, 169 retail price eventually, having done the costing. But what we did was that for the Kickstarter, and especially, when coming back to your advice to maximize the initial phase, to maximize the first 24 to 48 hours, we offered a $99, limited edition, and we actually kept it. Like, we didn't increase. I think we offered only like 50 or so the first backers that, and whatever the number was, but we kept to that number. And once it sold out, the $99, it sold out. And if somebody comes to your campaign and sees one reward tier is already sold out, it sort of creates scarcity for the next level of reward tier.
Yeah,
right?
It gets people like wanting to pile in or thinking that this is going to sell out, quickly, so they're interested in the project. I mean, it has that social proof.
Yes, and the one thing I also want to do, because we're building a long-term relationship, is to make sure that the people who bought the Kickstarter campaign always feel they got a good deal, because for backing the project early and taking a risk. So we still maintain sort of that price gap between what I think our tiers were 99, 119, 129, and our retail price on Amazon right now is 159. So the guys who actually came in earlier, they because they backed us, they helped us with our working capital. They got the reward for that.
Yeah. So you sort of want to reward those initial people, those initial customers who really take that chance and who are willing to invest in you, your project, and sort of believe in your mission in that way. Man, this has been a lot of great advice, a lot of great tips, a lot of great information, I think, for those in the beginning stage of the process. And also for those that are entering completely new industry, completely new, I guess, segment of business, if you will. So I guess my last question for you here is, going forward, you're obviously going to have a lot more products coming out, but for those other people that are in the audience who are starting a new project. I'd love it if we could just end the interview here, maybe giving them a word of encouragement or a final tip or a bit of advice, anything here to help other people out there with their projects. Would love it if you could end on that note.
Yeah, so number one is that work backward from your launch date so that you have everything ready to go within the first 24 to 48 hours, all the marketing, all the PR. So I think that's really, really important. And everybody says that, I'd say that again. But so there's two things. If you're starting out like we did with no mailing list, no brand, scrambling to put together a website, we actually coming up with a brand name in the last couple of months. Even if you don't have enough time, if you're starting from scratch, it can be done. There are best practices, of course, but there are still ways to get your backers and your audience by figuring out who they are and what their pain points are using tools like Amazon. So if you do a good enough job of figuring out the pain points you're trying to solve and you build your campaign around solving those pain points, you can actually get away with not following a lot of the best practices or not having a very groundbreaking product. So I think just focusing on what your audience is. And actually, one more thing, also very important, figuring out what your brand is, what your brand stands for, because that goes hand in hand with who your audience is. So, working on sort of that target audience and branding piece up front and making sure that sort of is consistent throughout your marketing and your Kickstarter presentation.
Very well said. So those that are interested, you can go and check out the Aquilo Fan on Kickstarter on the company website. I think I want to include some of the links that you mentioned. You mentioned one marketing company. I don't know if you can maybe send me some more info on that Trello board. But finally, I just want to thank you for investing in my audiobooks, in helping out with my brand, and also supporting the education, because I think we need more education like this out there. And the fact that you're willing to come on and share these tips, that you don't necessarily need to have everything in order to run a successful project. You can sort of get away with certain things if you have a really good product, et cetera. That's the exact kind of information we need out there. So thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, Salvador. You're doing some fantastic work in building up the education in this ecosystem. And we've definitely benefited from that, as have many other backers. So thank you for that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you haven't yet, go and check out some of the other episodes in the archives of this podcast. A lot of great entrepreneurs, amazingly candid interviews, getting into the tips and tricks that you can use and apply to your crowdfunding campaign. Now, if you haven't already, I urge you, if you're looking to raise money on Kickstarter and you want a launch plan, a proven framework for raising money on Kickstarter, go and grab a copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. This is a book that I put together for you that goes way more in depth into all of these different strategies and tactics that we've talked about on today's show. It goes a lot more in depth also into what it's actually like when it comes to the fulfillment, when it comes to the more e-commerce side of the business. So I invite you to go and check that out. And I have an audio version. And if you like listening to my podcast, you like listening to the energy and the passion that I have when I'm talking with creators, I also have an audio version which is available on Audible. So on Audible, if you want access to the Kickstarter Launch Formula and you want it for free, you can actually sign up for a free 30-day trial of Audible. And along with that, you'll get a free copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. So you can get them both for free, which is pretty awesome. So if you're interested in that, you can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. So that link will take you to Audible, where you can then get the free trial and also get a free copy of my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula. Hope you love it. Would love it if you could also leave a review so other people know that it's good info. And I guess that's all I have to say right now, but I will see you next week where we have on another successful guest. And I do appreciate all of the comments, the reviews, the emails that you guys send me. It's always very heartwarming to see and to learn about these different products and also to hear your story.